Hello, welcome into Guru's podcast. What's up, Guru Nation? In this episode, we will be discussing the rookies. It will be called the Rookie Rundown episode. Going to go position by position, break down which rookies you should buy into and which ones you should avoid. I'd like to welcome back Josh for this episode. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Spencer. Very excited about these rookies this year.
For sure. Got a lot of intriguing ones still out there. However, they've had a lot that their stocks collapsed so far. However, the quarterback position for rookies generally isn't that great, but it's off to a solid start, especially after last night. The two top draft picks, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, faced off one-on-one. Jets, Browns. Ended up being a pretty good game, surprisingly, and it looks like Baker might be that guy. What are your thoughts? I mean, he looked pretty good last night. He looked on point.
I thought he looked incredible. If I had to nitpick anything, I would say that I would like to see him finish on some of those drives. Carlos Hyde had to come in and get a couple short-range touchdowns, to kind of finish the drive off. He did almost throw a pick in the red zone. He kind of threw it right at the defender. I wasn't crazy about that. So everything else looked great. The way he was moving the ball down the field, he was bringing energy. The team looked energized. It looked like they were having a lot of fun with him. So he did great in that aspect. But of course, to be a quarterback in the NFL, you got to be able to finish in the red zone. And so I want to see him grow in that area. And if he can do that, man, he's going to be something special. He really is. I thought he did a great job last night. Obviously, he got the Browns their first win in over 300 days?
Yeah, 300 something days. It was crazy.
It's incredible.
Wanting to open up the dilly thing, like break open the coolers. We won.
That's right.
What a crazy deal that was. But
he did a great job.
But yeah, great to see Baker do well with the Browns. I mean, a team that hadn't done anything in so long. But yeah, and speaking of Darnold, he's a guy that just kind of struggled last night. I still think he's got some upside, but he's going to go through some growing pains, it looks like.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we saw in his first game against the Lions, he threw his very first throw was a pick six, actually, and it looked really bad, but, he even came out and said he needed that to kind of, get the butterflies out and be able to chill, and then he looked great in that game after that. Last 2 weeks, he's kind of struggled a little bit, but we expect that. He's a rookie. The thing that actually amazes me about him, and this is not fantasy relevant at all, but the dude is so smart that, like they said last night, he doesn't even take notes in, like, film sessions and when they're going over play stuff. He just absorbs everything and just takes out into the field, and he doesn't forget anything, and he knows where to be at all times. I mean, that's pretty incredible to have that kind of IQ at your quarterback position. So the guy's going to be special. I really do think so. I wasn't crazy about him coming out because he's USC. I don't like USC that much. But I can't deny he looks like he's going to be a very solid quarterback in this league. So I would still start him by matchup if you're going to start him. But, I mean, if you have a better option at quarterback, leave him on the bench, let him be.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like both Baker and Darnold will kind of be like, play them by matchup. If they're on the waiver wire and you're kind of weak at quarterback, I'd suggest possibly picking him up, especially Baker. He looked very strong. Looks like he's got a lot of upside.
Yep.
So yeah, these guys definitely look better than your typical rookie quarterbacks. I mean, last season was a rough year for rookies. Mitchell Trubisky struggled big time, the high pick. The only one that's looked good is Watson looked really good, and then Patrick Mahomes this year, of course. So that looks like last year might be decent, but this year's looking pretty strong, especially for those early picks. Darnold and Mayfield. Moving on here to the last kind of intriguing rookie quarterback, but it just doesn't appear that he's going to do too much this year, and that's Lamar Jackson. A lot of people had high hopes for him, especially since he was mobile, thought he might steal the job from Joe Flacco, but Flacco's looked the part so far. He's looked better than last year, obviously, when he was terrible. Right. I think that the Jackson pick may have put a chip on his shoulder, so it looks like Jackson might get some wildcat usage at times, but not going to be consistent enough to be fantasy relevant.
Right. I would say, stay away from him unless something happens to Flacco, but if something happens to Flacco, he becomes a really intriguing, because he actually came in first game of the season because they were up by so many points, and he looked pretty good. He looked decent throwing the ball. He looked really good running the ball, as we knew he would. So if something happens to Flacco, go out and pick him up. It will not hurt, I don't think,
Right, for sure, yeah. But until then, he's better left on the waiver wire. Same, obviously, with Josh Rosen and Josh Allen. Well, Allen's starting, but the way the Bills are playing, do not touch him by any means.
No.
So that wraps up for the quarterbacks, and let's move on to running backs. Probably the most intriguing position for rookies. Saquon Barkley has really lived up to the hype so far, looking like a first rounder, man. He looks strong.
Absolutely. I mean, he had his toughest test in the first game, which was the Jaguars.
Ran for over 100.
Still ran for over 100 and broke, a 60-yard touchdown? And the touchdown was incredible. It wasn't just, he had a huge hole and he just took it the distance. No. He broke a really nice tackle. Made a
Barry Sanders-esque run there. And that's who he reminded me of on film. The guy just looked like a special talent. I mean, so that's why I was comfortable taking him 5th overall in the Industry Experts League, and I don't regret it one bit.
Nope, not at all. Stay with him. He's still a must-start every week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so he's looking really good. But now we get into some more tricky cases. And let's start off with the Denver Broncos backfield. A tandem of rookies there. Royce Freeman and now Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay looking like the better play so far. But I still feel like Freeman, he could take the job eventually. And I feel like he's a good buy low candidate at this point.
It saddens me to say that I was wrong about Royce Freeman. I thought he was going to, I wasn't the only one. Everybody thought he was going to be the feature back.
A lot of people thought so. I think his passing down game, it just struggles on third downs. Not a good receiver. I think that's why Lindsey's getting more work.
Yep. So I think keep Royce on your bench, but if something happens to Lindsey, I think Royce is a must play. I think if he ever gets that feature back role and he gets to that 20-plus carry mark, he's going to blow up with it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll have to see there. They're definitely both worth owning in all formats. Lindsey, I slightly prefer in PPR formats. Right. Standard formats, I'd probably still give the edge to Royce. But it's going to... Right, because he does have the more touchdown upside. But until he gets more touches in general, he's probably not worth starting. But is a good bench stash right now.
Right.
And then 2 other running backs that were hyped up a lot this offseason but have gotten off to brutal starts, Rashad Penny and Ronald Jones. Jones even more so than Penny. He hadn't even seen the field. Yep. Penny looked a little better last week, but still looked pretty sluggish. Neither one of these guys are worth starting. Going to be a while before they become fantasy relevant.
Absolutely. Like you said, Ronald Jones hadn't even touched the field yet. Peyton Barber hasn't looked amazing, but
that whole backfield's terrible. They're just the one-dimensional fit. Yeah. Fitz magic.
And he's killing. So why would they do anything different? They're not gonna. Fitzpatrick for MVP. It's gonna happen.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Hey, if he keeps going the rate he's going, my man's getting him some MVP action this year.
Conor McGregor out there. Rojo or Ronald Jones. He's just. It's looking pretty bleak for him at this point. He's a bench stash for deeper league, but if he doesn't see the field soon, I'd suggest cutting him. Right. Penny, I feel like, is a better stash because Chris Carson hadn't looked the part. So it looks like Penny might get the job at some point, but behind that offensive line, he's not going to be a consistent start.
Right. They're basically just passing the ball a whole lot over there also, so it's not looking good for either one of them.
Right. Yeah, 2 rookies, though, that I have a lot more hope for. These guys I'm buying low on. I feel like they could really break out. And one of them is Sony Michel. I know he's on the New England Patriots, but their backfield's kind of, Belichick spent a first rounder on him, so I think he's got big plans for him, but New England backfields can be annoying. So the one I'm really big on right now, and I'm still hyping him up, I was hyping him up over the offseason, I still like him, is Kerryon Johnson. I feel like Kerryon is going to break out of that committee very soon, I'd say in the next couple weeks, and I feel like he'll take over that job and be a solid RB2 for the rest of the season. I just got a good feeling about him, and I think Sony could break out as well at some point. Just he's not going to be consistent with Bill Belichick as coach.
Right, and I think Sony has the talent too, and he very well could, but James White is still there, and James White still looks really good, especially in the passing game, and I just feel like as long as James White is there, you're not going to have a consistent running back like Sony Michel that's going to get 20-plus carries or anything like that.
Yeah, he's not going to be a workhorse, but he could be a solid flex. Deion Lewis with the Patriots down the stretch was pretty solid last year. Got a lot of work. I think Michel could get into that role once he gets comfortable. He could. So I feel pretty decent about him. And some other rookie running backs that some people are high on. Nick Chubb. Doesn't look like he's getting much work. We touched on Carlos Hyde earlier. Played a great game. So it's going to be a while before Chubb sees the field. Unless you're in a deep dynasty league, Chubb can be cut loose. Yep. And then Naheem Hines, Jordan Wilkins, the Colts backfield. still somewhat intriguing. I'd say Hines is worth a stash in deep PPR.
Wilkins looked good.
Wilkins, I mean, he looked better than Marlon Mack. He's worth owning, I'd say, in pretty much any format because there's a chance he could take over that early down role. The Colts aren't a very run-oriented team, but he could still have a pretty solid year, maybe worth a flex in some leagues. I mean, Wilkins is definitely worth owning. He looks pretty solid there. It looks better than Marlon Mack.
Very talented.
Yeah, Marlon Mack just hadn't. He was a rookie last year, hadn't looked too good. And then the Falcons with Devontae Freeman heard of a rookie, Ito Smith. Didn't get too much work last week behind Tevin Coleman, but if Freeman's injury keeps bugging him, then at some point he might get a pretty good role in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, because I've been waiting for Tevin Coleman to get full backfield for a lot of years, so I'm kind of hoping that he takes off with it. If, you know.
Yeah, he very well might. He's looked pretty good. He looked very good last week in the feature role.
Yep.
So Ito more just another deep league dynasty stash. So let's move on here to wide receivers. This has been a very frustrating position for rookies.
Yes,
just been, oh man, there's very few have really done anything. It's just been aggravating. DJ Moore actually kind of broke out last week, caught a long 50-yard touchdown, but it was his only catch of the game. But I'd say he's still worth a stash, especially in deeper leagues. Even in a 12-man league, I mean, he's still worth owning. I mean, he could break out at any moment.
I agree. I like DJ Moore a lot coming into the season. It was very disappointing to not see him get a catch in week 1. But he did have a 50-yard touchdown in the second game, so hopefully it opens up Cam's eyes to, you know, try to give him the ball. Give him the ball. The guy's super talented. But if he can give him the ball and get him about 5 or 6 targets a game, he might become something deadly. We don't know.
He very well could. And then the same goes for Calvin Ridley. His situation isn't quite as promising with Julio as their target hog, but he actually had a pretty good week last week, caught a touchdown. He might be a better red zone presence than Julio, who's disappointed in that department over the years. So I feel like Ridley is another one that's worth stashing. Could be a flex, especially with these bye weeks coming up.
Yeah, because Ridley looked really good in the preseason, and he actually surprised me even more that he didn't get a target or a catch in week 1. Again, disappointing, but he did have a pretty decent week 2. Hoping that he can take a little bit of pressure off of Julio and he can get some targets coming his way.
For sure. And then moving on to some more rookies here. A guy that looked really promising heading into this season because he looked like he had a strong role. Michael Gallup, I mean, for the Cowboys. Looked like he could be their number one, but that whole passing offense has just looked really rough. I mean, it's just been bad. I mean, I'm to the point with Gallup, unless, like we said, if you're in a deep dynasty, keep a lot of these guys stashed that we're talking. But if you're just in your standard 12-man league, Gallup doesn't even look worth owning at this point. I mean, they just showed no offense.
I still think Gallup is worth owning kind of at the end of your bench. I think at some point he could break out, but that would involve the offense getting a lot better.
Right. It's not like Dak Prescott's a terrible quarterback, but his O-line isn't quite as good. And they're super big with Zeke, obviously, so it's like there's just not much to go around in the passing game. Yeah, I could maybe see stashing him. And then some guys that, one guy to me that really stands out, and I know you like him too, Josh, Antonio Callaway.
Absolutely.
Especially after last week with Baker Mayfield taking over and no more Josh Gordon. I feel like Callaway could break out and possibly finish as the top rookie wide receiver.
Yep, I actually picked up Antonio Callaway before they got rid of Josh Gordon because it looked really good in the preseason, and I thought that he could possibly have a role in the slot. Well, then now they got rid of Josh Gordon. He had a huge touchdown catch last week against the Saints that actually almost beat the Saints, and he showed his speed.
Oh yeah, he's got the talent for sure.
The guy's got some wheels. And last night he had 2 touchdown opportunities that were blown by Tyrod Taylor. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, and Baker. That's what I was saying. But Baker now looks like their full-time QB. I mean, he could.
I think he
might take off and be something.
I think he's worth a flex spot if you're struggling at your flex spot and you're kind of going in between. I would play him by matchup. I really would. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Let's see here. We got a few more. A lot of intriguing guys. We'll kind of group them here by 2. Let's do the next group. Be Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton. Both were drafted pretty high. Kirk, though, in that Cardinals offense looking pretty rough. Sutton, Denver offense looks kind of iffy. Keenum's looked a little better than their awful situation last year, but still doesn't look like there's going to be enough targets for Sutton to take off. Larry Fitzgerald, though, kind of questionable in Arizona. Could allow Kirk to take off. Demaryius Thomas hadn't really looked so hot in Denver so far. So I feel like, it sounds kind of I know we're kind of just repeating ourselves here, but we're not.
Right.
I mean, it's just we got to hammer this point home that these guys, rookies, are very intriguing. While they might not start off like blowing up, guys like this could possibly win you your league down the line. And if you have them stashed, it gives the rest of the league no opportunity to pick them up off the waiver wire.
Right. When it comes to the Denver situation with Carlos Sutton, I wasn't big on that at all because I really like Emmanuel Sanders this year.
Yeah, he's really had a bounce back year so far.
He's
looking
been
really
great so
strong.
far. I figured with an upgrade quarterback, he was going to get back to his old self. So I think as long as Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are healthy, I really don't see Carlos Sutton getting more than like a touchdown catch maybe every now and then, maybe every couple games. So I'm staying away from that. Same with Christian Kirk. Now, like he said, Larry Fitzgerald's kind of questionable. If something happens to him, absolutely. Kirk is a speed demon. You know, he could very well get into the end zone a couple times. But, again, their quarterback situation is kind of rough, too.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like he could really take off if Rosen takes that job. And then we'll do another rookie rundown of at some point, a few weeks down the road probably. And hopefully Rosen's name will be on that list because I'm sure then we'll be talking really more about Kirk if so. And then to wrap up receivers, we'll do a group of three here real quick. Dante Pettis, Anthony Miller, James Washington. Tell you what, out of that group, because of the way the depth chart's going, I'm thinking Miller has the most upside.
Absolutely. I like Anthony Miller. I think he looks really good. He's looked really good with the Bears. I think it's more on Mitch Trubisky. Needs to step up his game a little bit better. He had a decent week one in the first half against Aaron Rodgers. Not so good in the second half. And he had an okay week two. I think if his game elevates, Anthony Miller's game will elevate also because I think he's actually getting better looks than Gabriel over there. And
I think so. He looks like he might be their number two. Caught a touchdown last week. I mean, we know Allen Robinson's their number one, but he's kind of injury prone himself. So Miller's another guy I like stash, and Pettis could be, but he's kind of messed up with his opportunity, unfortunately for him. I mean, Marquise Goodwin been out the last 2 weeks, and Pettis I thought could maybe jump into that role, but he hadn't really taken advantage of it.
Goodwin coming back this week, so.
Yeah, so Pettis could be a stash, but if Goodwin gets back into that role, then I'd probably just say cut Pettis in any non-dynasty formats. And then James Washington with AB, Antonio Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, Juju on that beat, AB. I mean, that might be the best receiving duo in the NFL, so there's just not enough to go around for James Washington, especially since Big Ben's kind of been even targeting the tight end more this year. So
absolutely.
That's not enough for James Washington. I mean, he could take off at some point in the future, maybe toward the very end, like Juju did last year if there's an injury. But as of now, he's just not worth owning. He's just not getting the targets there in Pittsburgh. And what's a dynamic offense, but just not enough to go around for him.
Yeah, and actually the emergence of James Conner, that's kind of taken away from too, because James Conner's
they got to the running back catches in that offense. So it's just a lot of mouths to feed. And
doesn't look like it's going to happen too much.
Yeah, just kind of a rough start for him as far as his usage. And then to wrap this thing up, we'll briefly touch on tight ends. Rookie tight ends usually don't do much, but one guy has really stood out, and that's Seahawks rookie Will Dissly off to a really good start. I mean, he's looking pretty solid. I mean, Jimmy Graham didn't get many yards last year, caught a ton of touchdowns. Dissly already has 2 touchdowns, I believe, and actually is getting a decent amount of targets. I feel like he's a guy, if you're in a deeper league kind of searching for that tight end, he could be a guy that could fill in for you a lot of weeks and could be worth owning the rest of the year.
I'm so salty right now because of that name, because in my last week 2, I was playing a guy that had Dissly Monday night.
Oh, he got that late touchdown.
I was up by 10 the whole game, and Dissly wasn't doing anything. And literally that touchdown at the end of the game allowed me to lose by 2 points. So I'm really salty when it comes to him. But he does.
Those heartbreaks can be rough. Russell Wilson broke my heart last week too.
Yeah, he does seem to have Russell Wilson's eye. So I think he's definitely worth a starter if you waited late for tight ends and you tie in. Maybe you had Delaney Walker.
Yeah, in the industry experts league, I had Greg Olsen, unfortunately. So there wasn't really much out there. I tried Benjamin Watson. Doesn't look like the Saints offense doing too much. Oh yeah, another rookie wide receiver, Traquan Smith. He's could be worth a stash because they're talking about getting him more involved, but it looks like it's the Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara show. So I'd give Traquan Smith a couple more weeks, but if he still doesn't do much, I'd probably just Just say it's hopeless for him
Yeah,
for this season. Redraft value.
It actually surprised me because Cameron Meredith hasn't even played yet.
Right, it's just been the Michael Thomas show out there, and Ben Watson hasn't done much. I mean,
it's been wild. I don't know what to think about Traquan. He's super talented, but I mean, with Cameron Meredith not playing, he's still not getting anything. Like it's just kind of
it's definitely concerning. And then speaking of Olsen and industry experts, we picked up Disley to solve that void for this week. Hopefully he'll continue his good run. And then the Panthers have a rookie tight end filling in for Olsen right now. Ian Thomas didn't do too much this week, but if he starts to pick up in the next few weeks, he could maybe be a guy worth streaming some weeks. Yep. I mean, because Cam, he likes to throw to his tight end. Hopefully he throws to DJ Moore some more, but I mean, he seems to love the tight end. And then other rookies, the two most highly touted rookie tight ends haven't done anything so far. Mike Gesicki doesn't look too involved. He might just be kind of like a rookie that just doesn't really do too much in the passing game. And it's unfortunate because the Dolphins have a lot of targets up for grabs, but it doesn't look like it's happening for him. So unless you're in a deep dynasty, cut him loose. And then Hayden Hurst coming back soon for the Ravens. They've had Mark Andrews, their other rookie tight end, filling in. Well, not really. It's just like a three-headed committee there. A really ugly committee at tight end for the Ravens. But once Hurst comes back, he might be able to take over and be an intriguing guy. But I wouldn't pick him up quite yet. I'd let him show what he's got, see if he can do anything coming off the foot injury.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed so far with Mike Gesicki. Whenever the starting tight end went down for the Dolphins and it was said that he was going to be the number one tight end, he was going to get a lot of targets, it really disappoints me that he hasn't really done much with it. But I think that also has more to do with their offense being so terrible.
Yeah, I don't know how that team's 2-0. Like, I don't know. That's just the NFL for you. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, they are not that good. I think players like Kenny Stills is getting his right now, and maybe that's
he's inconsistent too. So
he's inconsistent. Yeah, I don't like that offense at all. That ain't gonna last. So, but anyways.
Yeah. So. All right, y'all. That wraps it up for the rookie rundown. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all later.